still early. Do we make chat available on this?
Yes, there is chat, and Q&A is also enabled. I will be watching the chat to make sure we get any questions that come in.
Thanks.
Troublemaker Fireflies is here.
Mm-hmm.
Since we are recording it, I guess we can let Fred take notes. Firefly. You're okay with that, Jordan?
For sure. Very, very okay with that. Would love to see them when they're done.
Yeah, we'll send them out the recap and the
Great.
link to the video once we get
Great.
it up to YouTube.
Great.
Now people are starting to come on in, which is great. Still give it at least one more minute. Let people in and then we'll kick it off.
I'm not ignoring your last email, Chris. I just haven't had time to reply to you. I will.
Thanks. Well, you answered my first question right here. So
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
there's only one question left.
Should I get it started? What do you think, Colin?
Yeah, let me introduce you in
Great.
like 20
Great.
seconds and we'll kick
Sounds
it off
good.
from there. We're at 17 now. Yeah, we're at 103 now, so I think this is a good time to start us up. Thanks everybody for joining. My name is Chris Bednar. I'm president of ARMA New England. Appreciate you all joining to listen to Jordan Fox from InOutsource talk about Microsoft Purview and give us a data security briefing on it. Jordan is an information governance consultant with InOutsource, has a JD from University of Virginia School of Law and a BA from Harvard, has practiced law at 2 Vault 100 law firms and now helps clients tackle complex information governance, compliance, platforms and problems. So Jordan, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Chris. Great introduction. Could not have done it better myself. Appreciate it. Okay, yeah, thanks everybody for joining us today. We're really excited to talk about Microsoft Purview and go through this security immersion briefing. We really think that this is a great discussion, and think that you'll get a lot out of it. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if it gives me the right screen. Start. Okay, I have to switch it. Okay. Everybody see my screen? Take that as a yes. I don't see you now, but I see my screen. Okay.
Yep, all good on our end.
Great. Okay. All right. So yeah, just as an introduction, yeah, again, I'm Jordan Fox. I'm an information governance consultant within Outsource. See some familiar faces, but for those of you who don't know us at an Outsource, we help especially law firms, but also increasingly other clients tackle difficult information governance and compliance issues, especially helping them implement technologies that help meet their governance needs. We are a Microsoft Solutions partner, a Microsoft Solutions partner in security. We're really excited about that. And that means a whole bunch of things, but it means that we are particularly equipped to help you navigate all of the complex functionalities of Microsoft security product like Purview. Today's agenda will spend some time going through the key challenges that organizations are facing with securing their data. We'll talk a little bit or a lot of bit about how Microsoft Purview can help and look at Microsoft Purview in action and what are some of the values we can get out of Purview. I imagine most people here have heard about Purview, have some sense of what it does, have maybe started looking at its functionalities, but hopefully after this session, you'll have a really clear sense of what it can do for you and how it can help meet your governance needs. We're going to go through some things that probably a lot of us already know, that data security is absolutely critical for strong cybersecurity. We know, because we hear about it every day in the news, that data security incidents are widespread. Here we report 83% of organizations have experienced more than one data breach in their lifetime. Even just insiders account for 20% of those data breaches, and that adds costs of millions of dollars trying to resolve those breaches and the repercussions of them. As generative AI spreads, so do organizations' concerns about data leaks, both intentional and negligent. 80% of organizations are reporting increased concerns around data security because of generative AI. I also forgot to mention, but please interrupt me with questions. I think you can just unmute or enter a question into the chat, which I can't see right now, but maybe Chris, if you see any questions, just feel free to let me know and I'll stop.
We got you.
Or Colin, great, even better. So yeah, data security incidents can happen anytime, anywhere. We see people working from their workstations, from their laptops, from their mobiles, in the airport, right? We know about the external risks. We hear about those all the time. users falling prey to phishing attacks that compromise user credentials. There's all sorts of other forms of malicious attacks that come from outside organizations. And then we also hear a lot about the internal risks. Maybe, yeah, a malicious insider, right? The user is going to another firm and they copy their files to a USB or a Dropbox or G Drive or something like that. And they're able to take confidential, sensitive information out of an organization and bring it to a competitor. Something that, yeah, every user of generative AI, no matter how much we train them or tell them not to, we know that users are sharing sensitive data inside their generative AI apps. And often organizations do not have adequate controls around that. And then maybe we hear of the scenario of data sabotage by a disgruntled insider who is deleting information just to cause some chaos. Yeah, leakage of sensitive data, lack of preparedness for deploying AI, top of minds for risk leaders, for governance leaders inside the workplace. And we know that the regulatory environment is changing. We see privacy regulations coming up. We don't know where AI regulations are gonna fall, but we know that there's uncertainty and we expect changes. Again, we've always had these data security risks, but the world of AI is creating huge new surface of attack. Tons of more scenarios where information is going to be exposed that should not be, both internally and externally. So we're going to tell a little story now about Jane Doe and her tale of corporate espionage to really illustrate an example of a malicious usage of data. Jane Doe is a principal and manager at her company. She's been there for 5 years. In the course of her time there, she has collected proprietary information from multiple companies using her privileged title. She attempts to copy that information on an external drive, but is blocked by the DLP policy at the data loss prevention policy at company A. But she finds a loophole. She uploads the sensitive content into her personal cloud storage company storage account at both companies. She copies those files from the cloud storage to an external drive. Then she has an inappropriate conversation with one of her peers who's threatening to reveal her conduct. Suspecting that one of her peers would report her, she then tries to delete the sensitive information, and then finally she's terminated and investigated. We'll see here in this bottom row, or the middle row, many of the failures that occur that could have helped prevent this situation from getting so far. So very early on, the companies that Jane was collecting information from, they didn't have visibility into the sensitivity of their data. They had DLP policies, but they weren't flagging repeated offenders. Collaboration was granted, and then it was abused without sufficient monitoring or controls. There was inappropriate conversations and behavior that was happening that was not being flagged. And then data that we knew was sensitive and perhaps relevant to an investigation was not being adequately preserved, right? All of these were data failures across this story. In this case, Jane was convicted and charged, but there was enormous costs to the companies.
So Jordan,
Yes,
we do have a question in the chat.
great.
For an organization with hundreds of non-Microsoft system applications, would it make sense to use Purview and augment it with another data discovery security tool?
I think that's right. Colin, do you want to jump in on this one?
Sure. Yeah, I was typing a response to John, but I guess I will just verbalize it. So yeah, John, it's a great question. So Purview can control has controls for security, compliance, governance in your Microsoft ecosystem, in your Microsoft tenant. There are some non-Microsoft repositories where the Purview controls can work as well, but not all of them. So like Box and AWS, and there's a growing list of those non-Microsoft repositories. But yeah, I would say it's a good idea to consider augmenting Purview with some other data security tools.
Great, thanks, Colin. Okay, we're moving on to another story about John and Alice. They're the manager and they're the project manager. I think the last story really helps illustrate the malicious attack, but maybe even more common is the negligent exposing of data, right? John is working on a confidential project called Project Obsidian. Only a few employees know about it. Alice is walking down the hall. She overhears something about Project Obsidian. She asks Copilot to find information about it, and Copilot provides her with a summary with the link to the document. Out of curiosity, Alice wants to see what ChatGPT would summarize, so she pastes the content of the file into ChatGPT. Huge risks here, huge exposure gaps. There was not a policy in place to automatically detect and label the documents associated with Project Obsidian and make sure that they were being held to higher confidentiality standards. Copilot was able to find that information and expose it to Alice since it had open permissions. And then there weren't DLP policies in place to prevent the leak. And now ChatGPT has trained on that data and that sensitive information is exposed forever. Yeah, horrible situation, especially for companies that deal with confidential information.
Can I add to this a little bit, Jordan?
Please.
I'm just thinking, so Jordan and I work together. And I'm sure you would agree, Jordan, if not, definitely let everyone know. But we're increasingly, as we're working with our customers, increasingly it is the exfiltration of information that is negligent behavior rather than, attacks. So I just to emphasize the importance, it's less so the again, the cyber attacks. A lot of organizations have pretty good security around that. Of course, it always is evolving, but increasingly it is those internal, just people inadvertently sharing information that they shouldn't be.
100%. And it sort of speaks to some of the other slides that were saying, Gen AI, which has been great for productivity, it creates this enormous new surface for folks to be accidentally sharing things that they should not.
John had another good comment that Alice should update her resume.
Now she's probably hire a good lawyer first.
Yeah.
Okay, so all of that is introductory, right? Microsoft Purview is the unified approach to securing and governing your data. All of these issues that we've been describing are pertinent to Purview. Right, so Purview combines a host of functionalities across a variety of platforms that covers data security, data governance, and data compliance, really within anything within the M365 environment, whether it's Office, Exchange, Teams, SharePoint, within Microsoft's copilots, security copilots, within the data estates, the Microsoft data estates like Azure and Fabric, and then in a host of other AI apps and agents as well. And as we're going to see in a little bit, there's also some functionality of Purview within other repositories with connectors. A lot of these shared capabilities, right, of data mapping, connectors, classification, labels, auditing functionality, and giving organizations visibility into their data. Microsoft Purview really does give us that single pane of glass, as people like to say, that unified data security, the governance and compliance solutions in this AI era. It allows us to dynamically secure data from its inception to its retention or destruction. It allows us to really responsibly unlock the value creation from that data, right? Data creates risks for organizations, but obviously it also is an enormous asset for organizations. As we make sure that we are eliminating or at least mitigating as many risks as possible, we don't want to put too much of a burden on the the value that's created from the data. And then it allows us to manage critical risks and regulatory requirements throughout the data. We're really going to be focusing today on the first and third tile here, but there's a lot to talk about that middle tile as well. Okay, so we'll start talking about this middle tile, dynamically securing data throughout its life cycle. So Purview provides that intelligent, built-in, extensible solution that allows us to know and protect our sensitive information, whether that's living on the cloud, on-prem, or within a whole host of applications, as accounts like Box, Workday here, Adobe, right? There's Salesforce, there's a whole bunch, Google, but of course also the Microsoft environment. Purview allows us to discover and classify our data at scale using automation and machine learning. That's one of its core functionalities, probably one that you've heard the most about. Built-in labeling and protection. The platform, yeah, it extends throughout the M365 environment, but also can work in a host of other apps through connectors. And then encryption that's built into the M365 data, both at rest, in transit, and while we're using it. Another core functionality of Purview is its data loss prevention, its DLP functionalities that allow us to prevent accidental or unauthorized sharing of sensitive information. It helps us automatically enforce compliance with regulations and internal policies, again, on cloud, on premises. It extends the DLP policy to both M365 and non-M365 endpoints, and on-premises file shares, user apps, browser services, and it allows us to apply flexible policy administration to balance user productivity. So again, allowing users to share where possible and prudent, and not put too much of a burden on their workflows, but still maintain those DLP policies and make sure that they're being enforced.
Yeah, I think that flexibility in the DLP
Yeah.
policies is really important. So whatever big organization's posture is around security, Jordan and I work a lot with law firms, so it can be challenging because it can be difficult to have strict policies enforced upon the lawyers. They often don't like that. Versus if you're in a highly regulated environment, you may be able to get away with a little bit more, stricter controls and a harder security posture. So you can balance those. Often for us with our clients, the starting point is to put the policies in place, but not enforce them, to sort of watch the behaviors and what's going on, where the violations are. And then from there, we can help, work with clients to figure out what the right posture should be, where we should be stricter versus allow users to remove policies or etc. Just simply have notifications sent to the security team, whatever it might be. So again, just having that flexibility, I think, is important.
Another core functionality is Purview's ability to manage insider risks, right? In both of these examples, we heard about conversations and behaviors that were indicative of malicious or negligent conduct, right? Purview allows us to surface those risky activities and hidden risks using contextual insights, but still maintain user privacy with those built-in controls that allow us to keep the user data anonymous as appropriate, and really allow collaboration across different departments, security, HR, legal, with the integrated investigation workflows that Purview provides. And of course, all these functionalities work together, right? Which is why they've all been brought under the Purview umbrella. The insider risk management allows us to, evaluate and publish those risk levels. And maybe that informs our DLP policies dynamically, so that certain users, based on their risk levels, are being given different DLP policies. That allows us to create conditional access, and ultimately informs our data lifecycle management, helps us preserve data ahead of when we might even realize that we need it. Does anybody have any questions about these areas: insider risk level, DLP, access, and lifecycle management?
Is anyone using any of these?
Also a good question.
Yeah. Just like a chime in or raise your hand.
Okay, somebody is. Okay, and in addition, so like I said, we talked about the first tile. We're going to talk about the third tile and leave the second tile for another conversation. But yeah, Purview really allows us to manage our critical risks and stay compliant with regulatory requirements. Especially when it comes to data lifecycle management, we spend a lot of time advising firms about retention and destruction of their data, And we're really excited about the ways that Purview is currently and in the future will help with the management of that information lifecycle in a way that's very intelligent and nuanced. So yes, Purview allows us to retain or delete data, manage records, where the users are collaborating so that we're managing risk, but at the same time preventing productivity loss, right? We don't want to be deleting things that people need prematurely. And again, you'll see in our intelligent platform on the right, we are talking about our M365 environments, but we're also talking about data in other environments as well. And Purview continues to add those connectors. There's really, the label analytics that gives us insights into our compliance, into defensible disposal, and really provides those rich audit trails that support defensible disposition. And then, managing non-Microsoft data imports with the pre-built data connectors. Purview has a lot of e-discovery functionalities as well that allow us to preserve content by custodian, send hold notifications, track acknowledgements. We know that this can always be difficult, especially with vast amounts of data in different repositories. It allows us to review and manage those sets of documents within a case, search them, analyze them, share them, act on them. We have near duplicate detention, email threading themes, and ML machine learning models to identify those potential high value content to really make that review process more efficient. We know that, e-discovery can be a real bear without the additional help.
Just to add to that too, with a lot of these capabilities, you can use them for a variety of purposes, and the discovery is a good example of that. We use the discovery features within Purview, we use them for legal holds, et cetera, all the stuff that Jordan talked about, but they're also really cool and useful for other types of sort of investigations, if you would. So we're trying to find data, information, like one of the use cases that we've used the discovery features to help clients with is in the law firm world. There are these outside counsel guidelines. So, clients, bank, whatever, says the law firm, you need to protect my information. Here's what you can and can't do with it, yada, yada, yada. The law firm will generally, not always, generally keep track of these outside counsel guidelines and maybe the terms of those guidelines. But when it comes to complying with those terms and knowing, actively knowing that you're complying with them with the data are two separate things. So knowing where that data lives, knowing that again you're complying with the terms of those guidelines. We've used Purview to go out and again in the Microsoft tenant, so Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, Teams, etc. Go out and identify information, data that is responsive to that outside counsel guideline for that client. Once we find it accurately, we can go and apply a label to it. So now we know what it is. And once we apply the label, we can then apply policies to that label. So the policies from the terms of that outside counsel guideline. So if it's encrypt my documents, encrypt my content, we can do that. And we can also, so we know where it is, we've labeled it, We've applied the policies, the security, the DLP, everything that we need to. And we can also come up with a, reporting on that. So when the client comes back and says, are you meeting my expectations? Are you protecting my stuff? You can have a report. Here it is. Anything in your Microsoft environment, we know where it is. It's been labeled. Policies have been applied. We are complying with your terms. So there's a lot of different ways. The point is that you can use all of these capabilities.
This is just the beginning. When it comes to compliance, yeah, we need to have good audits. Purview really provides that for our forensic and investigation teams. We can really get a good understanding of what is going on in those audit logs. Up to 10 years, we're going to hold on to those based on our licensing. Really helpful audits that we can dig into. And then finally, our compliance manager, which really gives us that insight across all the functionalities, so we can really manage that, end-to-end compliance, easy onboarding, easy implementation. A lot of the out-of-the-box assessments are very configurable to meet what your requirements are. And it really, just simplifies all the process across all these assessments.
Yeah, sorry, I'll keep chiming in one more time. Sorry, just responding to Meg. There you go. So it's really, we think this is really cool. The compliance manager assessments, the client compliance assessments that Purview has available. So there's a whole bunch of them. There's GDPR, HIPAA. There's like hundreds of them. When we're initially working with firms, we've chosen 3 that we think are the best ones to start with. So we choose ISO 27001, NIST cybersecurity, and SOC 2. So those compliance assessments, we turn them on, we run them for our customers, and what it comes back with is basically letting you know how compliant or not you are with those requirements and what actions you need to take to improve your compliance with each of those requirements. So lots of cool stuff there to help you out, make your life a little bit easier.
Thanks, Colin. I'm seeing the questions on the side. Are there any that are worth calling out? Looks like some people are using Purview for legal holds. Great use case. Some who wish they could use it for records management but are not getting access. Some who have tried but gotten bogged down in the complications. Yeah, really interesting stuff.
Yeah, it would be nice if it was that simple, John.
So why
Can be
choose
done.
Purview, right? There are those built-in out-of-the-box protections that can be developed. A lot of the functionalities are quite simple. A lot of them are much more in depth, but it is really integrated into your M365 environment, and it allows instant connectivity into that those pools of data. And just intelligent, and we know it's going to just keep getting better and better as Microsoft continues to develop it.
I mean, it is a big beast. If you were to download the documentation just for Purview, I think it's last I looked, it was over 1,000 pages, and I know it just keeps getting larger and larger. So it's an awful lot to take in. And the other point is, well, two other points. Like for us to get our security partner designation, that required our team to get, skilled, get our certifications. We needed to get clients and do this work and do it successfully with customers. So it took a long time to go through all that. And another point, which I did try to make in the chat as well, is there is a lot you can do just once you start learning and how to work with Purview. But at the end of the day, there is a lot of scripting that you're going to need to do and a lot of customization. So you just have to be aware of that.
It's just, yeah, rehashing, summarizing what we've talked about so far. All the different functionalities. As we said, we are Microsoft security partners. You can see us on the Microsoft, sorry, I'm blanking. What is it called, Colin? The Microsoft
Market space.
Market space, yeah. With that handy QR code. And we always like to spend a moment bragging about how extremely satisfied our customers are with our work with them on this and other topics. We still have a few minutes. I'm certainly happy to give people some time back in their day, but are there any additional questions, areas we've missed, things people want to hear more about? Okay, well, hearing none, I guess I can turn it back over to Chris.
Yeah, Colin, I don't know if you want to answer that Mike Devana's question
I think I
live.
just,
Yeah,
I
I know
think I
you
just did. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the event-based retention question.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can set up event-based retention in Purview. That's again, Jordan and I work with a lot of law firms and accounting firms. Event-based retentions are extremely common. So
Looks like Ruth has her hand up. Is that a question? Maybe that was from before.
You can unmute yourself, Ruth.
It might have been from before when we asked who was using Purview.
Yeah, it could have been. There's a few questions in the chat as well. Anybody else have any questions for Jordan or Colin?
Ruth says she cannot
Hi,
unmute herself.
there.
There she
I'm
is.
unmuted. Welcome to me. So within all the scope of Purview and really companies desiring to put it in place and to have it up and running, what I am wondering is this is going to be a skill set that's going to be needing or required to be developed. And I am wondering, within that development, is it going to become, as now is becoming part of Long Island University and graduate school coursework, is it going to become to that level for a bit of that training? And will there be the point where it will become a part more of a flexible realm to put that in as a technical component within that training? Then if we put that into that component, will there be the revamp and redevelopment of job descriptions within this field? What's that going to look like? What will that entail? My additional question is, once that is all in place, what will it look like to then really say from the user's perspective, from the client's perspective, to create the white papers, case studies that will then in the future be studied by students and all of us? What will that entail? What is that going to look like? It's going to change a scope, and a scope of skill level, a scope of what's being written, what's being spoken about. And outside Microsoft, who else is thinking about this? Those are my questions.
There's a lot of questions in there.
And they're great. They're all, yeah, great questions, things we think about very often, right? Because the tool is only as good as the people who use it. There's no doubt about that. I think we see a lot of the training happening on the job, right? We see a lot of it coming from Microsoft. We try to provide training wherever we can. But yeah, there is a whole universe of things that people need to learn, and we're just really beginning.
And I think John in the chat makes a really, I agree with his comment that this technology is moving far too quickly for any sort of formal education to keep up with it. General topics like information governance, records, security, privacy, artificial intelligence, those things are being taught in colleges and universities, and they need to keep up just with those big topics. The actual tools themselves, I think that's a separate thing, and again, all the stuff is changing, the big topics, but also even the tools that we're using. Just working with the Microsoft security products, they're in AI, my God, that stuff is changing, seems like every week, if not more than faster than that. And to that point, so Danny LaPiccolo, who's on the call, Danny and I were out in Seattle last week for a meeting of the sort of group that writes white papers on these sorts of topics. And, shocker, we're writing a lot of white papers on AI topics. And, part of the conversation when we're meeting last week to talk about when do we want to have these papers complete so they can be published, we need to have them written within a matter of like 2-3 months, because any longer than that, it's irrelevant, right? Whatever we're going to say will not mean anything anymore. So we need to be quick because this stuff just changes so often.
But I do think you make a good.
Would it be a transition then, since you say that these white papers, case studies need to be out quicker? Would it be a concept now to potentially use platforms like Substack or LinkedIn to get some of these ideas out quicker and to publish them quicker and to get some feedback quicker? Are there avenues that are being explored at the same time as Microsoft Purview is being developed? What other companies are developing similar tools, or are any open source organizations thinking about this?
I'd say there's a lot of groups out there.
There's a lot of ifs in there too.
Yeah.
I would think that would also be dependent on the company that's using it. Like my company would not allow us to use Substack. So you have to balance the need to get peer reviews with what your company's policies are.
Okay, any other questions for
How
Jordan? or
about, I have
Colin?
I have a question, again, if the little hand things work or the chat. So we just talked about, at a very high level, right? Some of the purview capabilities and some scenarios where, they're not real, but they happen in real life for sure, more and more. But with all that said, how many folks on this call are their companies you have Copilot or some other, ChatGPT, some other AI agents that have been deployed within your organization?
So
Yeah.
we just announced firm-wide that we're using Claude and Claude only, and we're blocking or will soon be blocking anything else to be used by employees. So that I think I kind of like that step. It's like, all right, you don't let everybody use everything. Select one, provide the training and workshops on that tool. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, Anne, you have your hand up? Is that just in response? Or
No,
you
no,
have a-
no, no.
Yeah.
My hand's up. I just came. I'll put myself on camera. I hate not being on camera. I just came back from Evolve from last week, and Evolve this year, ILTA's Evolve was on AI and cybersecurity, and there were so many sessions. First of all, information governance was talked about, whether it was an AI or cybersecurity, which is finally, our love song, right, is finally going through everywhere. But that big thing about shadow IT, shadow AI, they didn't call it shadow IT, they were calling it shadow AI, of how many firms have people that are, doing exactly what Jordan had talked about,
Yeah.
popped something confidential into ChatGPT, and they're bringing it, they were calling it bringing their own AI instead of bringing your own device, bringing your own AI.
Yeah.
And those kinds of things are happening, and they're not necessarily happening. They're not happening because people intentionally want to do the wrong thing. They just want to do better. So they don't understand. So I think so much of this cybersecurity AI marriage has to be oh well, we end up going, you need to follow the rules. So it means that you need to get the business requirements and put policies in, like Chris was saying. You get people to everybody adopts it, everybody says what they're going to do with it, and if you're going to play, you're going to play with the approved top products. It's the same thing as when people went to DMSs. It's whenever you adopt new technology, guardrails have to be put into place. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, no, I think that's a
Yeah,
great
well
point.
done.
And the shadow AI is real. I think a lot of organizations don't have, they may think they do, but they often don't have the insights into how much shadow AI is actually happening. It's always enlightening, I think. Like when we're working with customers, we do this data security assessment for our customers. And part of that is looking at using Purview to look at their AI interactions. So, which AI are they using? How are they using it? What are the prompts and the outputs? And they're surprised how much.
I'm going to look up. I'll send an email out to this after I find it. But at Legal Week, there was a company that's new to legal. Oh yes, Anne has a crown. It's Princess Anne. Queen Anne. I actually have it. Hold on. Give me
Is that intentional?
if the sun is going right, but look what I have. I have a scepter. I have it for some other project I did, and I use it as a prop. But there was a company at Legal Week, and they're new. They stopped me, and I said, well, they were new to legal, and they had a really cool tool that went through your entire stack, identified all the places where they're finding AI or AI robotics, and they identify all the licenses, all the things that are going on, all the usage, and I'm like, this is magic. This is like, why aren't you more like? They didn't know how to market I offered my services, but they didn't know how to market to legal. They're like, well, we're usually in pharmaceutical. I'm like, oh my God, they'll love you. So I'll find the name of that because the guy wrote to me afterwards, but it was just really cool. So if you have tools that look at how you're using your stack, and then you use a tool like, you block out what's there, and then you use tools like Purview to support what your goal is, then you're getting it locked down from a variety of different places, because there usually just isn't one tool. I don't mean to be mean,
Right.
but there usually isn't one tool. You're using your data loss prevention and your DMS and supplementing it with your Purview, and but yeah, it's all about people, process, and programs, right? It's trying to make sure everybody's doing the right thing all the time, whether they know it or not.
Danny?
Yeah, so, Anne set me up there. So, there is no one tool. And what we're really seeing with AI now is the rate of development is just so quick. And to think about, in the legal industry, to just say there's one legal research tool. So clearly, depending on what your practice specialty is, what you're trying to accomplish, what that problem is that you're trying to solve, the AI tools that are being developed are targeted towards different problem solving capabilities. So, my firm had very specific, we did all of the groundwork that we could in that moment to come up with a great policy. And it's outdated within months. So immediately, we had we've invested in a large, legal industry AI tool. We're all in. And we also have Copilot, but then suddenly Claude has these capabilities that aren't in the other tools. So while we're putting the guardrails up very quickly, people are like, yeah, but, and, so now it's like, okay, well, maybe we do need Claude. Maybe we do need, and it really is because each algorithm, we're using AI as this blanket statement, and it's not. There are so many different specialties within these AI tools that eventually I see this conversation just hopefully we'll become more sophisticated, and we're not just saying cloud, we're not just saying AI, we're just talking about very specific niche problem solving capabilities, and that we'll have a subset of language that's going to be developed that'll help us navigate a little bit differently. But yeah, great conversation. Thanks.
I just
Yeah,
found the
thanks.
thing. I'm just sending it. I'll see if I can attach a file if I download it. But that's the name of the company, and I was blown away. I'm like, oh my God, this will solve so many problems. So it's called Portal 26, and they're not based on legal. I think I upset their marketing director. I'm like, why aren't you putting this at the top? Like, this is really important. And my son later told me, that was really mean, Mom. You're saying something about their marketing when the marketing director's there. So, but they had a lot of cool things, cool tools.
The other nuance I just want to mention as well, and I'm sure, many of us are aware of this, but it was actually news to me this week that, within our Copilot install, we can access Claude. So, it's getting even more complicated. So, even though we don't technically have Claude, we do have a version of Claude through Copilot. So
We do.
it's an ever-changing conversation.
And another thing that I learned at Evolve last week, and many of you might know Will Choi from ILTA. He's now out as a consultant, and he stopped me, and I don't again, I'm I've got CRS syndrome right now, but he talked about a product that he was helping. I'll find it, but he's helping. They make it easier for the mid-market firms. They put licensing together that gives you one-stop shopping where you get like Claude, CoCounsel, Legora, and ChatGPT all into a single license so that you're satisfying the multi-use case of people want to use more than one AI to check the other AI. But he had something cool, so I'll find out that too. I'll write that myself a note. But there's a new company that, and so much of what we do is not addressed in our market to mid-market. It's everything is talked about at the AM 100 and AM 200 level. So I think that's a good thing. So
yeah, Ian, with something like that, I'd be a little bit cautious around, where is the data going? So, when
Exactly.
we're looking at Copilot, we have control over our tenant with, our licensing. But when we start having kind of that hybrid where we're pulling in different AI tools and then we load up our data set into that for analysis, are we oversharing, of information at
Yeah,
that? And
exactly.
can we control
Exactly.
each tool's, back, behind the scenes. So
Yeah, I agreed, but it sounded interesting.
it
Because then it
does,
makes
yes.
it makes it easier for the mid-market size to have more than one tool. I
As we've-
didn't go into deep depth.
As we've kind of blended the Purview conversation into the AI, which is natural. Just to let folks know, Jordan and I will be speaking in next month in Boston. We're going to have two launch events. So the first day will be on Purview, and day 2 will be on AI. So
Oh, good.
there'll be blasts going out, I think, today or tomorrow.
Good to know.
So
Thank you,
we'll
Con.
continue that conversation, basically.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's an interesting question. What if us as records managers, information governance, our profession, took the step to be the innovators and to lead some of this thought and ideas and to create the innovative companies that would be creating these tools?
Go for it.
I love it. Yeah, I love it.
A great idea.
Yeah, I just wanted to wrap up as we're at the end of the hour. Thanks everybody for the conversation. Jordan and Colin for presenting. I noted a couple of things in the chat. If you're interested in joining our ARMA chapter, please do so. We have a full day of Empower again set for September 25th in Providence this year. You'll start seeing information about that. The last thing I wanted to mention that we're talking about communicating with the cybersecurity folks. We as a chapter have now had a table at the Cybersecurity Summit for the last 3 Boston summits in a row, and we really have good conversations with the folks on that side of the world. So I think we really are blending some of our capabilities and our, just for lack of a better word, purview around, just bringing our worlds together, whether they lead it or we lead it. I think we need to know what each other is doing. And I for one, I work really closely with our cybersecurity guys. And I'm sure a lot of you do too. So anyhow, thanks very much. We'll be in touch. We'll see Colin and Jordan maybe next month and the rest of you throughout the year. Have a great afternoon.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having
Thanks,
us, everybody.
Thank you.
See you later. Thanks, Chris.
Bye-bye.